Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 4, On the Trail of a Killer.
Yep.
I feel like they hit their stride this episode.
Okay.
Episode 1, there was some sound issues.
Okay.
Where the music was a little too loud. And they did some wheel spinning, last episode.
Right.
Episode 3. But this one, I felt like everything was on all cylinders, and we were full speed ahead.
Okay.
And I enjoyed the hell out of the first half of it before break. And after break, it was still good. But there's a reason the break went late in the episode. I feel. And that's because,
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right off the bat, basically, confirmation Mr. does exist.
Yeah. Go and get the XU crew.
And I don't know. I think I have a sinking suspicion that Matt feels about Mr. the way that Abria felt about Gilmore.
Okay.
I have no evidence for this. But the lack of Mr. in the in the first few episodes, and Ashley bringing him in when she comes to the door.
Yeah.
Is sort of a reminder, and then later on when Mr. apparently didn't see the last time that Laudno was puppeting Pate.
Right.
Had a initial negative reaction.
Yes. Part of me was wondering, is Matt hesitant? Because there didn't feel like a hesitancy there, but he was afraid of putting too much Doriak's interpretation on because they didn't like each other.
I had not considered
used to thinking of him through the lens of Doriak's.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's very possible. Rose, I don't know if they had so they probably did have a talk about it. And actually I was thinking about this.
Okay.
As sort of Matt steering closer to Raw.
Mm.
And where Abria had Mr. around as a permanent fixture, and I said that was an interesting choice to make for the fire spirit. Matt maybe has taken the tack with her until you summon him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be around.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the case. I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of Matt had a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And if the player isn't going to bring up their pet, I'm not going to bring it up.
Yeah. I think that's more it. He very rarely was the first to acknowledge Sprinkle as well.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah.
But I don't think, especially citing Sprinkle as an example, I don't think he has an issue with, I have a pet, and when I summon the Wildflower Spirit, it possesses the pet.
Yeah. I loved the weekend at Birdie's.
Yes, that was great. When they find the body, I wanted to talk about something because, as Rose stated about the main story. I think we're getting into the foreshadowing, like in campaign 2 when we were noticing all the chains and something caught my attention. So we've the red storm in the dream, plus when they're examining the body, or in the previous episode when they were fighting the dwarf, he said the dwarf blocked the light of the moon twice. And initial watches and stuff, I thought he was talking about just, the main moon, but I'm wondering if he wasn't talking about both moons. The red storm with the red moon, and we've talked about it being in connection to Therisden, and Matt says there's 5-6 wounds, and Liam, after a few seconds, clarifies it was 6 wounds, right? Yes, 6 wounds. And that relating to I was thinking maybe that relates to the 6 chains that hold Therisden captive.
I think that was just him recounting the battle and then the 2 stabs in the end.
I was wondering if it was maybe symbolism with
I don't think so. I think a 5th level fighter would take about 6 hits from a D8 weapon to go down.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, but to me, that was just them sort of solidifying how many times he was hit in the fight, and consequently the later battle. The interesting thing for me, from an NPC point of view, was Esteros going back on his initial, did anyone follow you? Does anyone know you're here? Don't let anyone know you're working for me. To, yeah, okay, you can stay in my house.
Yeah.
Let me go untrap a room for you. And it's definitely a show of faith from Orem that he asked for that.
Yeah.
But I think it's strange that
yeah. See, I took from that section that, well, when he confirms Vox Machina, he confirmed, like, in my head, that was the moment where, like, one, he confirmed that Bertrand was indeed a member of Vox Machina.
Yeah.
Knew those people.
Yeah. Or am I misremembering? Snoopy asked an interesting.
Yeah.
He hit him when 2 killed him. Am I wrong in thinking Bertrand was hit by the dwarf in that fight in the hotel room?
Yeah, he was injured in the fight in the hotel room. He attacked him. I remember that. The dwarf attacked Bertrand. Because that's when he said he blocks the moonlight the first time. But no, I think Snoopy's right. So
maybe you're right. Maybe it is
because he was like, they look at the wounds that killed him, and he's like, there's 5-6 stab wounds there.
So yeah, you might be right.
But that was also the moment when he was talking with Estros that I was like, Dan's right. They're going to pitch Vox Machina as the name.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about Whitestone. And I think in my brain it's submitted, and my guess would be like level 8 to 10, they're going to go to Whitestone. They're going to get some kind of communication about what happened here, and they're going to get, and that's when we're going to delve into Laudna's backstory. And I'm still saying that we're going to find out that Melanie is her patron.
I don't know if it's going to be that late.
It might be sooner,
Well,
but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Strictly because of the continent hopping.
Yeah, that's true too. But like in my mind,
unless O'Shard is Travis's new character, like you speculate, because then half the party has a reason to just up and go to Tal'Dorei, because that's the end of their mission, and it's pretty early for that to be the end of the reason I'm here. Why am I going to stay here? So that's why I think it's
not necessarily to just pick up and go back to Tal'Dorei, because when Orym talks to Esteros later and says, I'm from the Ashari. I'm here to rescue you," basically.
Yeah.
The tidbit that we get from Esteros about the man that he's come to find is that he's a bodyguard for one of the Mahan families.
Mm-hmm.
And that family's family name is Luna. Totally not werewolves. Which is why I am now even more convinced that that is Travis's new character. And that Rose might be right that he's a blood hunter.
I think he'll be a blood hunter. I think he'll be part of the Luna family, not O'Shard. I'm really hesitant because it's going to be like a plot-based lore dump is going to come twice through Travis through two different characters.
Shifters?
A shifter, yeah, it could be a shifter from Eberron. That would be another way to, have a werewolf light.
Yeah. So, yeah. But,
I see where you're coming from. I don't think it's going to be O'Shard himself.
That's fair. I loved that. Well, loved might be too strong. I really enjoyed Imogen's river moment.
Yes.
With Bertrand,
mm-hmm.
where she's like, "I'm glad that you're in silence now." Like very reminiscent of River, but also a little bit of Billy when in WandaVision,
mm-hmm.
when he says, "You're quiet, Agnes, on the inside." A little bit of that too. So I'm waiting for that moment too. Yeah, Snoopy. The other possibility is the thieves. The Corsairs
or the Corsairs. I think he's going to be one of the Corsairs, but he could. But I don't know. He may be a Luna.
If he is a rogue, the Corsairs is, or he could be both. The Corsairs. Next episode, he would be in from the top almost.
Yeah,
and maybe he is the one who takes them, who vouches for them. He becomes the Stilgar, as it were.
Yeah,
they're under my protection.
Or he's the Finn and is the one that breaks him out of jail.
Yeah. So the storm, the red storm. I think that that's death. That is her interpretation of death, not necessarily Rudis.
Okay.
It seems like the voice is not the Raven Queen. It's her mother. She identifies it as her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that it has always been hopeful. But I think she knows what befell her mother, but she's closed it off from her mind.
Okay.
And yeah, Gracie, I want to give Ashley MVP for this episode for all of her zingers that she had.
Yeah.
And the jazz one was probably second best. Because the first best was, well, sleep is for the dead.
Yeah.
Oh, too soon.
Yep.
That was my favorite one. Yeah, so good. I also loved Laudna when the trap gets triggered. Excitedly, did someone just die?
Yeah.
Which gives us two sides of the coin for Imogen and Laudna.
Yeah.
On how they view death. Potentially. And I think we got more evidence again of the Laudna, Imogen, Veth, Caleb parallel.
Okay.
When she was concerned, showing concern for her and everything. And trying to protect her in her telling everybody about the premonition that she had.
Yeah.
And I loved later when they're like, do you have nightmares often? She's like, nightmares? Yes, definitely. Premonitions? No. Note on rests, because it came up in the episode. She asked, is this going to interrupt our rest? Are we going to have to start again? For a long rest, your rest can sustain an hour interruption.
Yeah.
So long as the interruption doesn't go beyond an hour. And they were skirting close to that.
Right. And it can't be anything strenuous like combat, correct?
Right. Yeah. Although even for combat, it's the amount of time that it says that you can be fighting and it not interrupt a long rest is longer than you will ever fight in a encounter. Especially a surprise random encounter. But yeah. So yes, rest can be interrupted and stopped, but they were within the cusp of that.
Yeah.
Ashton getting all the money, 400 gold.
Yeah. Blowing both chairs, pretty much.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to decide if it's generous or if he's like.
Well, he at least blew through his share, if not dipping into FCGs.
Well, they gave the coin purse back to him. Matt says they did.
Because he gives one guy 10, he throws 100 gold at another guy.
I want to say Maurice, but I know that's wrong.
Milo,
thank you.
He buys the sandwiches, and he bribes the guy for information.
Yeah. I mean, he was spending, for sure. But yeah, his largesse was interesting. And also his seeming patronage of Anna, who I'm trying to decide and it may or may not even matter or come up again, but I have a feeling it will. About her trying to get an audition and everything and
Right.
practicing, and Fresh Cut Grass saying, "I'd love to hear you practice," and she comes at him and she says, "The only people who hear me play are the ones who pay for it," basically. And I started wondering if that's not an outgrowth of stage fright for her. And she has high anxiety over people listening to her play.
Yeah.
And the only way that she can overcome that emotionally is the carrot of coin.
That makes sense.
Or the adrenaline rush of performing and the response of the crowd also muting that response.
Yeah.
Whereas if she's intimately practicing, she doesn't want anyone around, which I think is why she's in the hollows. Because she feels she can be away from everybody.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My feeling for the importance of the audition, Rose, is that it's going to be attached to Dorian. Because we saw Dorian struggle with a similar issue when he and Imogen teamed up again.
Yeah.
Where you talk and I'll listen, basically. And he's like, I'm immediately afraid.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what was discussed in EXU, where he has the overshadowing brother.
Yeah. I think it's going to be more along the lines of that. And like Rose says, wouldn't be surprised if they went and something happens. I think that's something that's going to be tied to Dorian and why he ran from this area in the first place.
Yeah.
And because he was always like, it doesn't matter, it's, doesn't want to talk about his past. And someone from his past is going to be there.
Interesting. Especially if...
Because if he's from there and we delve into his backstory first and then have to go to Whitestone.
The angle of using bards to explore a criminal element is super intriguing to me. Like it's different from doing it from a rogue perspective. Because like rogues can sometimes be cast as a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
Bards are often easier to do that with because you're just a performer, man. You just want to make people happy. And you're caught up. It's more often that a bard can be cast as a victim of that space. Witting or unwitting pawn in people's machinations. And if this does continue to go down the political intrigue game, I would expect that to be a bigger part of it. How bards move through all layers of society and can migrate back and forth. That's something that the Grand sort of conceptually plays with.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a lot of that in Campaign 1, and certainly not in Campaign 2.
Right.
So I think we might see that more, and I think Anna and Dorian are that vehicle.
I agree.
Imogen's line when they all get back together and meet up, and they're going to tell Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass about the murder. The others are asking her, do you think they're okay? And she says, well, I didn't have a dream about them, so they're probably alive.
Yeah, the good news is they're probably alive since I didn't dream about them.
And Dorian's slow burn, I think, is the best way to describe it. I'm liking.
Okay.
He's getting like a slowly burning righteous anger growing in him. And I have a feeling in the first scene next episode, we're going to see that kindle. And that will be the only thing that saves them. Or will be one of the only things that saves them. Orem, I think, has some ideological talking points that he can use to get them out of a murder spree or a big fight with 30 people. I don't think it's going to be a big brawl. Matt set it up that way and whatnot, but I don't think it's going to be a huge fight. I think there might be a fight because I think
there might be a small scuffle.
They got to be jumped in, as it were, and test them.
Yes,
but it's not going to be we're going to murder you.
Oh no. At most, it's we're going to beat you up enough to throw you in a prison cell.
Yeah.
Corsairs are definitely, and both Liam and Taliesin mentioned it in the show, very Court of Owls feeling. I was thinking that before they said it, and yeah.
Interesting. Snoopy doesn't think they're the Corsairs. I think they are. And I think the passcode that he gave Ashton was the passcode. This person is asking about us.
Yeah.
We need to take care of. Not this person's asking about us and they're a friend.
Yeah.
Because Ashton came to him with a bunch of people he didn't know.
Right.
Or that he just met.
Yeah. He's just a really aggressive comic. Take their heckling seriously.
Speaking of Travis, well, I loved Ashton's view of Bertrand dying the way that he did. He's like, he won. He died old
There's winning
and
in
in
life.
shape.
Yeah. Yeah, Rose, that's more what I think. It's not they need to be dealt with, but they need to be tested.
Gracie, one does not displease the Shadow Baker.
Escape unscathed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was... I was trying to think of another example, but the only one that came to mind, like, top of my brain, was the soup Nazi.
Like, no soup for you.
Yeah, can't you see the Shadow Baker?
Yeah.
No pastries for you. Orem is gonna be on his permanently banned list.
Yes.
But again, arguably a chef, especially a traveling one,
Mm-hmm.
fits into that bard idea.
Yeah. You can very easily be a chef bard.
Yeah. That's one of my character concepts I want to play with. Yeah. We had... let's go through Bertrand's pockets, which is Travis's only contribution to this episode from off-screen.
The Criterion Collection.
And we had the... Werther's aren't a sponsor, are they?
Even if you weren't an automaton.
Yeah. Next, we're going to see a Werther's RPG that Sam will run. Where everyone plays a silver fox. And Mr. does finally strike, as it were. And I think, thinking about that scene, you might be right. Matt may be worried Dariax's view of Mr. might bleed through in his portrayal. Because it kind of did.
A little bit.
The discussion of Laudna, when they were talking about after Mr. steals Dorian's sandwich, she's like, "You can have mine. I eat like a bird."
Yeah.
Like, in that you don't eat at all. Although I can't remember if hollow ones actually have to eat or not. I think they do.
Hollow ones do need sustenance and sleep.
Yeah. But it was just a funny thing for me. And then...
Well, I had a similar thought when she was woken up at the beginning of the episode. I was like, wait, she doesn't... Oh, wait, no, that's hollow ones do.
Yeah.
Confusing it with the Reborn and the Dampier and all the other possibilities she could have been.
We also get the comment about Orm's bottomless stomach.
Yep.
And he was like, it was one time. So, interesting thing about small creatures and how often they have to eat. They actually do have to keep eating all day.
Yeah.
Sort of. If you believe film theory, anyway, he makes a very compelling case about the thermodynamics of small creatures and like how the hobbits have, second breakfast, afternoon tea, lunch, dinner, supper, that they're eating all day. And it's because the heat loss and the caloric intake they have to take in to maintain their body temperature and the size of their stomachs means their stomachs are too small to eat all of that in any big meals. So they have to keep constantly eating.
Gotcha.
Like hummingbirds are constantly drinking all day. So, yeah, I just had to give a little bit of a defense for Orm and halflings in general and the rap that they get for eating all the time.
Yep.
Well, not always, because he tried to buy one from the Shadow Baker.
Which the Shadow Baker doesn't think pies are fine, because they are indeed pastries, and he only sells fine pastries. So they're the lower class pastry.
Yeah. The other person that gets a high mark for MVP for me in this episode is Taliesin, Ashton.
Oh, yes. Easily.
Who, after them sort of revisiting the scene of the crime and going down that hole, which I loved, because I've done stuff like that, where you guys think you're on the course of something, and then I describe how big or deep or whatever, and you're like, we don't have a way to get down here.
Yep.
Or across this, or it's just that insurmountable moment. I was just like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and see, for me, one thing.
Plus, it led to the whole. You lost the last remaining item from my maker.
Yeah. Well, one thing for me, this episode especially, with the bribing and the.
Does nobody bribe anymore?
And this goes back to him having the clasp insignia. I think that's like a fanboy insignia. He just gives me this vibe of the guy who wishes he was this person and is trying to, like, he wants to be the rogue, the criminal. And he doesn't really know about it. He's like, don't we crime? Don't we bribe? And especially the look on his face when Liam looked at him and said, yeah, why don't you show us how it's done? He's just kind of like, okay. Yeah, like, oh shit, I just got caught in my big talk.
Well, I think that part of that was, I have a super low charisma. This is never going to work.
That could be, but that makes it all the better.
Yeah. For sure.
But I think that's what it's going to end up being. Not that he was a member of the clasp or O's, but that he wishes he was a member of something like the clasp.
So all the people who buy motorcycle jackets with Sam Crow patches on them.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to put it that way, that would be that would be an analogy. Yeah.
That's just he's sporting a Sam Crow patch, even though he's never been.
Much. Yeah.
I could buy that. Yeah. The funeral. We mentioned Fern's jazz thing.
Mm-hmm.
But she also tied ribbon and Orleander to him.
Yep.
And part of my brain now is like trying to get in the headspace of Vex and Percy getting Bertrand's body with Orleander on it. And them calling up Keyleth and going, why would someone put Orleander on this body?
Yeah.
And then, can you just imagine them going spiraling down that? Is this some kind of message?
Grog, go check it out.
But yeah. And the fact that Laudna also cut some of his hair. So his hair's gone. He's got Orleander tied to him.
No, I love the fact that Laudna, that was just, that she took a piece of his hair. Because now, when she later gets, like, summon undead spirits.
Oh, yeah.
It specifically says you can make it look like whatever you want. Here's the stat block.
And she summons
Bertrand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I was like, is this some way for them to try to resurrect Bertrand?
Also, she says, Pate can't go more than 6 inches from me.
Yet.
Not yet. Next level, she's going to be a 3rd level warlock and go Pact of the Chain. And Pate will be her familiar.
And
will be able to go more than 6 inches from her.
Yeah.
Which I think.
And see, I was thinking MVP or Animate Dead.
Yeah.
Was going to be what she was going to use, but I didn't think about an undead familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Fresh Cut Grass. Goodbye is the hardest word to say other than Worcestershire. And Whitestone's always been friendly to the dead.
Yeah.
Was the big one I took from that, which leads to her patron.
Yeah, her patron. It is. The town is full of, like she says, the town is full of tombs.
Yeah.
They've always been friendly to the dead, honored them.
Yeah.
Speaking of I think we're going to be coming up on a level up.
I think so too.
And I think that if you're going milestone, it's going to be getting Travis's character.
/ getting out of
this
Corsair
thing. Yeah. That's going to be the mark when they level up.
Yep. Agreed. For sure. So that may happen next episode.
That may very well happen. In fact, I'm thinking end of next episode is the level up.
Okay. I was going to say, do you think we might get a rare break?
We might, and that's why I paused there when I was saying that sentence, because like, is it going to be the break? But no, because there's just as much chance it'll happen with the break as it will the following episode. So I'm hedging my bets in the middle at the end of the episode.
It's fair. Yes, Rose. Travis is definitely going to be coming back to the table.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yes.
Because either he's with he's with those people up in that space, or he's who Orm's looking for, and after they get out of that space, that's their next stop.
We're ready to meet him. Okay, I'll make the yeah. Either way, it's right there, and if we don't meet him, if he's not part of that group, and we don't meet him right away, like in the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it is going to be, oh, Shard, I'm wrong. I was wrong. And it's going to be like near the break. If it's not in the first 15, 20 minutes, it's going to be at the break when Travis comes in.
Yeah.
He could be what gets them out of it. It's exactly what I was saying with he might be like Finn and be the one that busts Poe Dameron out.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that's my thought.
I think I liked Talus Ashton's goodbye to Bertram the best, I think.
Yeah.
In a couple days, you'll have been gone longer than I knew you. Thanks for the job.
Yep.
It's good. So good. So I was thinking about this. How possible is it that the Corsairs are not actually an organization? That they're akin to Antifa?
An ideology?
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing. I don't know if that's it, but I think that would be awesome.
Okay. Because it sort of occurred to me that could be the way that... Because that's sort of the only way... It's a good way for a Robin Hooding organization to spring up, grow, and everything. Is to be decentralized.
Yeah.
No formal structure. And that anyone could claim to be one, but no one can prove that anyone is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Ashton also, this is your bolt hole. You should always have a safe house, basically, a second location.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who said it, the Laudna was inspiring. Oh, it was Crook. at the cookhouse, because she
Yeah.
inspired him to think outside of normal animals. Yeah, you can cross pollinate and design it however you want with
Yeah.
pate. And I think the best one was I don't have shit anymore. It got lost. Sam poking it. Liam. And Fern trying to pick up fresh cut grass.
Yeah.
And not being able to. And Matt saying that he's pretty dense. You know, he's made of metal and stuff. And I started thinking about it. And Matt said you weigh about twice what a normal creature, a small creature would be. And if memory serves, the density of iron is 35 kilograms per cubic meter.
Okay.
If fresh cut grass is around 28, that would put him at about twice the weight of a normal small creature.
So, did you look up what metals had that?
No, because that...
You're going to go down the rabbit hole, Daniel.
Well, here's the thing. I don't actually know his absolute volume, for one, that he takes up. Two, I don't know what voids he has within him. So, at best, it could only be a shot in the dark kind of figure. But I just thought I would illustrate my insane brain.
I was hoping for a whole rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, what range of metals could he be?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what game it was that I did that. Where I needed for my own edification to know how much whatever it was going to weigh. So I went down and looked, what's the density of iron, steel, carbon, all this stuff. And yeah, it was, so yeah. Yeah, Gracier, we're jumping around so much in my notes. Yes, the 6 months ago is going to be important because I have a feeling that is about when Keyleth sent Orm out.
Yep.
And it's going to be somehow connected with Ruidus and Katha. It's going to be a conjunction of some kind. And yeah. Yeah. And I have a feeling his interests are not aligned with either party. With neither the Corsairs or the Ivory Syndicate. Yeah. I think, much like Palpatine using Black Sun in the Star Wars universe, I think it's just a means to an end. Yeah. For whatever demonic abyssal forces are acting in the city. Also, Matt talked about how Broomstone is mined exclusively by one guild in is it Marquette?
Marquette, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only place on Exandria that airships are built.
Right.
We don't know how many ruins of the Calamity are on Marquette.
True.
Presumably, if you're right, and Fresh Cut Grass's maker just refurbished him,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a ruin somewhere.
Yep.
Or maybe multiple ruins that they're just going in and carving, powdering, grinding, whatever, the stones that held those cities aloft.
Yep.
And they're just repurposing them. So I think we will be exploring that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling it's going to lead in some way to some kind of what binds Thera's Doom.
Mm.
And that this broomstone either is integral to one of those bindings, or is integral in breaking the bindings.
Yeah.
And I think that all goes back to the Age of Arcanum and what we saw with Lucian and bringing the Cognosa ward back.
Yeah.
So
they're going to own their own airship. Possibly. Don't think that it's going to be that kind of a campaign.
I think they will. Especially if they're going back to Taldore.
How quickly?
Or they're going to be traveling back and forth. And how much they're going to be interfacing with.
Airship is the magic carpet.
Actually, Rose, I would say that the airship is the ball eater.
Yeah. They're just going to take Estros' airship.
Or, well, no, I think it's...
For the magic carpet.
No, well, if that's going to be the way it goes, yes, that would be it. But I think it's, as they uncover this smuggling of the broomstone, whoever's doing it is obviously building an airship or something of that ilk. And that's what they're going to take. And they'll be using that then, because by that point, they will have uncovered whatever plot is afoot, vis-a-vis the Divine Gate or what have you. Things that Keyleth and the Ashari and a lot of the stuff that's sort of hinted at with the backgrounds of the characters. Ashton is going to be a huge linchpin, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think this campaign story is going to be all about sort of the formation of Exandria.
Mm-hmm.
And how the elemental chaos is involved. How, like, we had some stuff with the Divine Gate with Vecna. And we had some stuff pre-Calamity in Campaign 2. And Thera's Doom trying to bring down the Divine Gate.
Yeah.
So I think this one will explore sort of the formation, the fundamental.
Yeah, that could very well be. I think Grace here has a point. I think the big battle on one is if they get one, it's how they're going to get it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big battle. I'd love to see a crash.
Well,
set down the ship. Skills challenge.
I was going to say, well, if you want to see a crash of an airship, we got Sunday nights.
No, I don't want to see that. Let's not go there. It's the one thing I got from my background.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we'll see Travis at the table again.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have the level up. and I think we get more about what's happening with the Corsairs and such.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's all.
Did we miss anything?
Don't think so. Grace, you're asking for elaboration. Are you asking about about the airship on our Sunday night game?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Background.
Yeah.
So we're using a homebrew background system that kind of goes with like what wealth class and what kind of occupation, geographic area you came from.
Yeah, my origin system is what I call it. Yeah.
And I went around when I made my current character. What I did is just for an exercise in character build, playing out of my comfort zone. There's 4 other people in, 3 other people and then the 2 of us. So I rolled a d4, and that first person got to put my stats that I rolled in whatever order they wanted, and then one person picked a race, one person picked my origin system background, and the last person picked my class. Well, the one that picked my background put me at the aristocratic, the super wealthy.
And one of the things for the aristocrat background, you get either a very rare magic item or a holding of some kind. So, like a ship, airship, sea ship on the world that we're in. Airship makes more sense. Or like a tavern or
some kind of hold real estate.
Yeah.
And I chose the airship. So yeah.
Yeah, they are currently in Strange Mountains.
Travis is going to be a wizard. I would love to see him play a Wizard Rose. I'm still leaning Artificer. Travis is the one most likely to play with his character as far as mechanics wise, and that Artificer is what fills the most holes in the party.
Yeah.
And it is one step closer to full caster for him. If, like I said, pre-campaign 3, he's taking baby steps to full caster.
Fair. The Paladin Warlock is a...
And yeah, Ashton was right up there for me too. I hadn't picked one at the beginning of the show, and the arguments for Fern, the arguments for Ashton, all solid. And of course, Laudna is always up there for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, based on the criteria that we have set, I think it has to be Ashton.
Yeah.
Just as the person who really pushed this episode's plot along. But for entertaining one-liners and yeah.
And Gracier makes a point. Blood Hunter. Now I keep forgetting. The last time I played a Blood Hunter was before the last update, and it switched from wisdom based to int based. So Blood Hunter could easily fill the role of a rogue and the intelligence as well. And it becomes Order of Lycanthropy, Order of Lycan.
I mean,
I do think he'll either be a Blood Hunter or a Shifter and House Luna and scratch that werewolf itch.
Yeah, I think Shifter probably...
Because Shifter is easy to reflavor as a human with lycanthropy.
Yeah. I don't know if... because I harken back to the one-shot that Liam did.
With the werewolves.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
So that's sort of where my brain keeps going. But yeah, the House Luna, he's a bodyguard. It was just ticking all the boxes for me. Then I was like, oh, so that's going to be Travis' character. But it would also be really convenient to introduce a rogue in this roguish trap that they're in. So
if he goes rogue, I still say Inquisitive or Mastermind. Although, if he's with the Corsair, Swashbuckler would not be a stretch.
Yeah. In either case, we'll have to just wait and see until Thursday. And we'll be here with you next Tuesday. And I'm probably going to do a stream on Saturday. I'm not sure when exactly, but yeah. And I'll probably either do some world building on stream or session planning or maybe just RimWorld. I don't know. We'll see.